Bless all the paths our feet walk to be free. Bless all the paths our feet walk to be free.
Say again to everyone, this is more than just about mothers, though. This is about women. This is about all the goddesses, whether you're a mom or not. Moms come in many different forms. And I want on. It is warm in here today, huh? That's why I always go cool. Oh. See? Amen. So we'll all breathe for Suzanne. Nice, cool, refreshing air to cool her off. I can do that. I'm not having a hot flash. Okay. Whatever you want, just tell me, because all I have to do is turn it. You're welcome. So, as we gather together for Mother's Day and for Goddess Day, as I'm calling it now, we've always heard all these wonderful stories about all the different heroes of the past, Jesus, Osiris, Mithras. And guess what? They all had moms. Without moms, none of them would have ever been here. So if I could have the very first slide, or page, or whatever you want to call it. Coyote's here. Is always with me. Can you guys see the picture? Because if not, we'll turn the lights off. Well, it's not there yet, but you will in a moment. So yeah, let's hit the lights off. You don't really need to see me. You've seen me before. I still look the same. So this is Isis. So Mother's Day in ancient times started long time ago. Some sources claim that Mother's Day's origins lies in very ancient antiquity. The ancient Egyptians held ceremonies and celebrations each year to honor the goddess Isis. To the Egyptians, Isis represented motherhood and fertility, and was believed to be the mother of Horus, who was considered to be the mythological ruler of Egypt. Thus, Isis became the mother of all pharaohs, and the celebration of Isis became a celebration of mothers. For many, this is the starting point of Mother's Day in history. Can I have the next one? This is a picture of Sybil, or Cybele. I don't know how to pronounce it because it's the Roman gods had their own Mother's Day. They had annual celebrations for the goddess Sybil, the Great Mother, and she originated as a Phrygian goddess worshipped by the ancient Romans as the mother of fertile earth. So we've seen this in our own interpretations of Gaia and Mother Earth, but this is what Sybil represented to the Romans. May I have the next slide, please? This is Princess Rhea, or the goddess Rhea. The Greek, too, celebrated a Mother's Day of sorts. Sibyl's Greek counterpart was a goddess by the name of Rhea. The ancient Greeks would hold festivities over several days, usually in the spring, to honor the mother of all goddesses. Games, festivals, fresh flowers. My goodness. Wasn't supposed to get to the comedy part later. Fresh flowers and parades were all part of the early celebrations that could be considered part of the history of Mother's Day. And we see this in some of our own traditions now. But all the way back then, they've been doing parades, flowers, fertility, creation. It's always been mothers have represented the art of creation in our world, the art of fertility, the art of freshness and newness. So as we've had other mothers in history, may I have the next slide, please? I think everybody knows who that is. That's Mother Mary, if you don't. As we see, some of the other mothers in motherhood can be traced all the way back to the ancient and Greek Romans times. They held these festivals in honor of all these different goddesses, some that we just talked about, Isis, Sybil, Rhea, amongst many, many others. The clearest modern precedent for Mother's Day is in the early Christian festival known as Mothering Sunday. Once a major tradition in the United Kingdom and parts of Europe, this celebration fell on the fourth Sunday in Lent, which was originally seen as a time when the faithful would return to their mother church, the main church in the vicinity of their home, for a special service. Over time, the Mothering Sunday tradition shifted into a more secular holiday, and children would present their mothers with flowers and other tokens of appreciation. This custom eventually faded in popularity before merging with the American Mother's Day in the 30s and the 1940s. So we've seen this in religion, but when did it really come to here to be a holiday in our country? May I have the next slide, please? The roots, this is Anne Reeve Jarvis and Anna Jarvis. This is mother and daughter. So this is where the roots of modern Mother's Day come. The roots of modern American Mother's Day date back to the 19th century. In the years between the Civil War, between 1861 and 1865, Anne Reeves Jarvis of West Virginia helped start a Mother's Day work clubs to teach local women how to properly care for their children. These clubs later became a unifying force in a region of the country still divided over the Civil War. In 1868, Jarvis organized Mother's Friendship Day, at which mothers gathered with former Union and Confederate soldiers to promote reconciliation. So what this first started out as by Anne Reeves Jarvis was to bridge the gap during these times of war and to also recognize the mothers for their service, but also to teach them how to care for children, because there wasn't a lot of education going on back then. All the men were gone on these wars, and this is how she originally started it. Now, the official Mother's Day holiday arose in the 1900s as a result of the efforts of Anne Jarvis, the daughter of Anna Reeves Jarvis. She conceived of the Mother's Day as a way of honoring the sacrifices mothers make for their children. After gaining financial backing from a Philadelphia department store owner named John Wanamaker in May 1908, she organized the first official Mother's Day celebration at a Methodist church in Grafton, West Virginia. The same day also saw thousands of people attend a Mother's Day event at one of Wanamaker's retail stores in Philadelphia. Later, and I didn't write this all down because I didn't want to just read. Later, she got so flustered with the commercialism of Mother's Day that she started to petition to have it not be a holiday. After the success of this first Mother's Day, Jarvis, who remained unmarried and childless her entire life, resolved to see her holiday added to the national calendar, arguing that American holidays were biased towards male achievements only. Amen, sister. She started a massive letter writing campaigns to newspapers and prominent politicians, urging the adoption of a special day honoring motherhood. By 1912, many states, towns, and churches had adopted Mother's Day as an annual holiday, and persistence paid off because in 1914, President Woodrow Wilson signed a measure officially establishing the second Sunday in May as Mother's Day. So that's the history. That's how it started. And these two women are responsible for it. Now, we have all the goddesses before them that we have seen in ancient times, but in our own country, this lady right here is one who started this during the Civil War times to honor women in all that they do. And her daughter took the ball and ran with it with a vengeance, and then ended up, like I said, getting so flustered with the commercialism of it, but she never lost sight of it in her heart, what her true intentions were. May I have the next slide, please? So, as we grew up, a lot of us grew up with Mrs. Cleaver, and a little fact here, factoid, more phone calls were made on Mother's Day than any other day of the year. These holidays, chats with mom often caused phone traffic to spike as much as 37%. And that was probably before all the cell phones and whatnot. So we see the depiction of mothers sometimes in TV. This is the TV mom, Mrs. Cleaver, and she was just that perfect mom and wonderful. And she was never disheveled. She was always looking perfect, never really lent to what motherhood, as the reality of motherhood, really took place. Now, again, as I talk about motherhood, I talk about motherhood to all women. Whether you've ever bore a child or not, you are mothers, and I in my heart, intend and hope that you honor yourselves as such, that you know the goddesses within you, the power that you have within you, and that without you, again, none of us would ever be here anyway, but there's more that gets lent to just being a mom. May I have the next slide, please? We see the pictures of loving moms, loving their babies, and being so cute and cuddly and wonderful. And that's a wonderful depiction of moms, and it embodies that love between mother and child that we've seen so many pieces of jewelry, so many pieces of art, so many pictures, statues that have the baby and the child together. And that bond going back and forth is a bond that we got to remember is on the inside too. We have to remember that there's that mother within us that has to always have this with ourselves. So I'm always going to teach us and go inside. I'm always going to bring it back to us. And that is part of the mothering within us. But this, as we celebrate this today, again, whether you're a guy or not, you still have this inner mothering within you. But for the women in here, this embodies that relationship with us, with our inner child, and with the mothering within us. But may I have the next slide, please? But who created moms? I can't believe I found this story, and it's a wonderful little story, and it's really fun. By the time the Lord made mothers, he was into the 6th day working overtime. An angel appeared and said, "Why are you spending so much time on this one?" And the Lord answered and said, "Have you read the spec sheet on her? She has to be completely washable, but not elastic, have 200 movable parts, all replaceable, run on black coffee and leftovers, have a lap that can hold 3 children at one time and then disappears when she stands up. Have a kiss that can have a kiss that can cure anything from a scraped knee to a broken heart, and have 6 pairs of hands." The angel was astounded at the requirements for this one. 6 pairs of hands? No way, said the angel. The Lord replied, "Oh, it's not the hands that are the problem. It's the 3 pairs of eyes that mothers must have." And that's on the standard model, the angel said. The Lord nodded in agreement. Yep, 1 pair of eyes are to see through the closed door as she asks her children what they are doing, even though she already knows. Another pair is in the back of the head, are to see what she needs to know, even though no one thinks she can. And the 3rd pair are here in the front of her head. They are for looking at an errant child and saying that she understands and loves him or her without even saying a single word. The angel tried to stop the Lord. "This is too much work for one day. Wait until tomorrow to finish." "But I can't," the Lord protested. "I am so close to finishing this creation that it is so close to my own heart. She already heals herself when she is sick and can feed a family of 6 on a pound of hamburger and get a 9-year-old to stand there in the shower." The angel moved closer and touched the woman. "But you have made her so soft, Lord." "She is soft," the Lord agreed. "But I have also made her tough. You have no idea what she can endure or accomplish." "Will she be able to think?" asked the angel. The Lord replied, "Not only will she be able to think, she'll be able to reason and negotiate." The angel then noticed something and reached out and touched the woman's cheek. "Oops, it looks like you have a leak with this model. I told you that you were trying to put too much into this one." "That's not a leak," the Lord objected. "That's a tear." "What's the tear for?" the angel asked. The Lord said, "The tear is for her way of expressing her joy, her sorrow, her disappointment, her pain, her loneliness, her grief, and her pride." The angel was impressed. "You're a genius, Lord. You've thought of everything for this one. You even created the tear." The Lord looked at the angel and smiled and said, "I'm afraid you're wrong again. I created the woman, but she created the tear." That's just a little lovely story about the creation of woman. Now, as we've seen motherhood, we've seen what it looked like with Mrs. Cleaver. May I have the next slide, please? This is more probably what it looked like in your lives as you were all raising kids. Breathing into the moments, knowing that in the society we grow up in, because things are changing, but predominantly women had to stay at home and deal with everything, the most overworked and underpaid person throughout history. On call 24 hours a day at less than minimum wage. The goddesses of our homes, juggling our kids, housework, husbands, cooking, cleaning. At any given time, they may have had these faces on them. Now, somewhere along the line, mothers started to stage a revolt. May I have the next slide, please? If you want breakfast in bed, sleep in the kitchen. And this is just breathing into and have a little bit of fun and playfulness with moms and with the goddesses. I just printed it. Well, they started the revolt then. Some mothers, like I said, have staged a revolt. Some have fine-tuned the art of watching their children. If I may have the next slide. So we've seen the little leashes that they have on kids and things like that, but this one I thought was fun. Pinning the clothes and pinning her child up. I don't think the kid's going to run anywhere. So some of them actually conspire with other moms on how to get rid of their children. Can I have the next slide? I child-proof my house, but they still get in. And this is just playfulness and having fun with it. And they're the best pastry chefs we've ever known, if I could have the next slide. Good moms let you lick the beaters. Great moms turn them off first. And how many of us are grateful to our moms that they did turn them off first? So, as I said a moment ago, sometimes in this life, by choice, by choices of spirit on your angel, on your soul self, some of the moms here chose not to have human children. But that doesn't mean they didn't have children. Sometimes their fur babies are their babies. May I have the next slide, please? You mean you're not my real mother? And it's just to acknowledge that there's a mothering instinct with all of us, within all of us, and some of our babies, for some of the mothers here, their pets are their babies, and they're just as much mothers, and they're just as much your babies, and you have the same love and compassion, and you have to deal with all the same things. Like, if I may have the next slide, please. Like when they're sassy, you're not my real mom. They deal with the back talk just like any other mother would. If I can have the next slide. And they love to embarrass us just like any other mom would, especially in front of our friends. That's all part of the motherhood and being a goddess. Now may I have the next slide. What to do when a goddess gets stressed out? There's a secret antidote for that. And it's not sex. That's men's secret antidote. If I can have the next slide. Just give me chocolate and no one will get hurt. This is the part of the secret antidote of women. And again, I'm being playful and loving with all of this because I want to celebrate Mother's Day and have a fun time with it and just own that our women do love chocolate. Matter of fact, many of them become activists, if I can have this next slide. Save the Earth. It's the only planet with chocolate. Ah, now we know why there's more female activists than male activists. Just breathing into it. So, where's Jake at? He's out there. Scott. So Scott's going to pass some little fun baskets out while I continue on. Last year I did flowers. The year before that I did flowers. This year I decided to do chocolates. Little fun, little gift bags. So as I continue with this, may I have the next slide, please, Sir Brian? They're all goddesses of creation. Some are moms to kids, some are moms to animals, and some are moms to simply life itself. So a long time ago when Scott and I were doing our men's workshop, I wrote a little couplet to just talk about men, and it's called The Rose. And it simply goes like this. A rose's thorn, a woman's scorn, can prick both finger and heart. Yet with every drop of blood that's drawn, we learn to play our part. Both will teach of gentleness if one is willing to see. The rose and the woman both simply say, please touch me tenderly. That is the embodiment for me of how, doesn't mean that women can't endure, but our aspect as men to learn how to be gentle with our woman counterparts, with our mothers, with our sisters, with that female, yes, and there's plenty. So these are some of the things about. And there's another basket full. If I have the next slide. Modern day goddesses of life. So we looked at the ancient goddesses of life. But these are some of the modern day goddesses of life. And if I can get out of the way and have the next slide. Now, if you guys don't see your picture up here, it's because I couldn't find it. I spent a lot of time looking. May I have the next slide, please? These are just simply some of the women in our community, mostly off of our Facebook members page, and some I had to go onto your personal page to try to find pictures. May I have the next slide? These are all the goddesses of love. A lot of us remember Jen. Just breathe into her for a minute. May I have the next slide? All the different women. All goddesses in my eyes, in our eyes. I know. May I have the next one? All the wonderful women of our community. Some we may not have seen for a while. Some come every week. May I have the next slide? And just breathing into all of them and loving them. And you see yourself, love yourself. And again, like I said, if you don't see yourself, please forgive me. It just means I couldn't find your picture. May I have the next slide? A whole group of goddesses. Goddesses with babies. If I happen to see one with your own baby in it, I tried to put it in there. May I have the next slide? And some of the faces we haven't seen for a while, like I said, but they've all been part of our pod community in one way or another, or extended part of our community. Can I have the next slide? Becky and her kids and grandkids, and I threw Scott's kids in with Becky's kids because they're all together now. And the next slide. Just all the women that I just simply wanted to remember and honor. Can I have the next slide? Here's Miss Julie and her family. Can I have the next slide? And some of the people I've never even met myself. They've, some of their Facebook members are just members that haven't even come here a really long time ago. There's Catherine, our administrator, and Ray, Bonnie. Can I have the next slide? And sisters. And you're both wearing a blue shirt. I didn't do that on purpose. Can I have the next one? It's all the different women that have walked through these doors, or we've got to look in their eyes. We'll be seeing Donna Frost at the end of the month. Open mic night, I believe. We have the next one. Yeah, I thought that was a cute, fun picture of Dee and Nancy, so I put them together with their own pictures. Because they're hams too, so. And can we have the next one? There's Brian's kids and Leslie and her daughter and granddaughter, and our friend from down south, and Miss Rachel, who's in the other room with her beautiful baby boy, who's growing up quickly. We have the next slide. All the different women again, just different women that have been here in and out of our lives. Just breathe them all in. All goddesses. Can we have the next page? Miss Anne. I don't know if you can see your picture, Anne. Hello, we miss you. And we miss you too, David, but I didn't want to call you a goddess. Next page. And Lynn, we miss you too, Lynn. And the next. And Shelley Siebert. There's Miss Jessica, yeah. Can we have the next one? And there's Vicky. We miss you too, Vicky. Hello. And just all the beautiful women and beautiful goddesses. There's Jen Farron. People that I said for, whatever reasons haven't been here for a while. Life has us all moving in one direction or another. May I have the next one, please? There's Amy and her friend. There's Helen. There's Twyla and Kathleen. And that's Beth. That's Leslie's other half. Yeah. Some was hard to tell, but yeah, it was a fun event doing all these pictures. And I can tell exactly what time of day the internet got really busy because I got really flustered with how slow everything went. But it was really fun doing this. We have the next one. These are my family. That's my stepmom, my sisters, and my nieces. Obviously, you can tell which one's my sisters. And may I have the next one? That's the goddess who brought me into the world. That's my mom. And may I have the next one? That's the goddess who brought my daughter into the world. And a lot of you remember Steph. And my very favorite goddess of all the goddesses. May I have the next one? Yeah. Of course, I'm going to be a little biased there. There's my daughter, Rose, who will be coming back in July to live with me again for the year. And may I have the next one? So happy Mother's Day, ladies. This is simply about a celebration of you and a celebration of all the goddesses that are in our community and beyond and have touched our lives in one way or another. And I wish you all a wonderful day, and to remember how much of the goddesses you truly are, whether you've ever had a child or not. You're all mothers to me. Amen. Thank you.
She's a sky that holds the clouds. She's a lady of the house, a blind believer in all I dare to be. There's no safer place I found than the shoulder of her white nightgown. Oh, I got the best and the worst of her and me, and I'd share her if I could, so the wars would all be over. 'Cause she'd raise us all as friends, and no one would ever wonder if somebody wanted them. We'd walk on grass that's greener, and all our kids would all be freer if the world had a mother like mine. She's our Father's one great love. She's the one who wanted most. She's the light in the window of the house I grew up in. She takes the midnight call. She's the bravest of us all. Still she sings in the garden. She lets her hair down in. Oh, the wars would all be over, 'cause she raised us all as friends. And no one would ever wonder if somebody wanted them. Tonight would be easier, and our dreams would all be deeper if the world had a mother like mine. Don't go away, don't go away from me. Oh, I understand she's a helping hand. Still, I have to say, she's the sky that holds the clouds. She's the lady of our house. We all need her, but no one more than me. Oh, the wars would all be over, 'cause she'd raise us all as friends. And no one would ever wonder if somebody wanted them. We'd walk on grass that's greener, and the dishes would all be cleaner if the world had a mother like mine. Ooh, like mine. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Bless all